In last place, we have the dark side of the moon. This really shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. If you've played the game, you probably don't even remember it, and if you do, you only have bad memories of it. On the surface, it seems like a cool idea for Kingdom. The dark side of the moon? We get to explore another, more scary part of the moon? Yeah... no. It's just repeated missions from past kingdoms, only harder and more frustrating. You're either refighting the Brutals in Mario Party Island Tour style, clearing bonus rooms on steroids, or trying to decipher hint art. You know, all the things you can already do in the other kingdoms. It's not just repeated, but difficult to the point that it's not even fun anymore. Like, just look at this. How is anyone supposed to beat this? There's no original content in this kingdom, and while none of it is awful... Actually, wait, maybe it actually is. My point stands. Darkside is an irredeemable excuse of a bonus world whose sole purpose is to fill out the moon counter. That's all it exists for. It really should have just been an extension of the Moon Kingdom, if it needed to exist at all, that is. Darkside truly is the dark side of the game. I'm sorry, I just really wanted to make that pun. Next up, the Ruined Kingdom, which is... well... so there are two kingdoms in Super Mario Odyssey in the main story that mostly just serve as boss arenas unless as actual kingdoms you can explore, those being the Cloud and Ruined Kingdoms, and of the two, the Ruined Kingdom is actually worse in my opinion. Sure, it's got one of the best boss fights in the game, and the art style is just something else, but everything else is just... meh. You've only got the arena and the starting point, and there's barely anything you can do on either of them at all. Sure, there are a few hidden paths, but there's so little space to move on that ultimately it's not very difficult, and thus you don't get any satisfaction from it. And even though the setting is unique, does it really belong in a Mario game? Now, if this kingdom got expanded, it could easily make it to the top 5, but as it stands now, it's one of the biggest wasted potentials. Maybe Super Mario Odyssey 2 will fix it, if it comes. Surprisingly enough, I actually think the Cloud Kingdom is better than the Ruined one, in spite of the fact that it's just a few clouds in the sky and has even less missions than the previous one. Despite the smaller size, I feel like the developers utilized the potential for this one a bit more. In the end, it's still mostly just a boss arena, but there are a few areas outside of it as well. There's a lot more space to cover than in Crumbledon, which ultimately makes it much more fun to explore. Like this platforming segment above the main score that's accessed through a platform outside of it. It's not as obvious that it's there thanks to the larger size of the kingdom, and that's just one example. Yes, there are more. As a side note, I also don't particularly care for the Bowser fight, as I find it too easy and it removes the surprise factor for when you actually fight him at the end of the game. Take notes, Ruined Kingdom, you had one of the best boss fights and yet you couldn't beat a boss arena with a much worse one. Now we've talked about 3 minor kingdoms no one cares or really knows about. So, let's talk about the real kingdom now. You know, one that's actually large and you can explore. Out of these, the Snow Kingdom is by far the weakest one. It starts off pretty decently actually, with the snowstorm that prevents you from seeing too much, giving the area a dangerous vibe. But after you beat the story mode missions and go back up, yeah, you start to see that it was all an effort to hide the blandness. It's noticeably smaller than the other kingdoms and doesn't have a lot of things to do at all. And atmospherically, it's a joke. It's literally just an ice cap in the middle of nowhere. The other major kingdoms were obviously based on real world locations, but that can't really be said for the Snow Kingdom. With that said, however, the town area is actually one of my favorites in the entire game. More effort was obviously put into this than the rest of the kingdom, as it gives off a very welcoming and comforting Christmas atmosphere. One of my favorite things about this area is how the song is actually a remix of a Jib Jig in Donkey Kong Country 2. Yes, seriously, look it up, the similarities are astounding. Alas, a town can't make up for an entire kingdom since it's a bit too small to compensate the boring overworld, despite the fact that it has neat exploration and a really fun racing minigame. Actually, it's kind of frustrating. I mean, jeez, how am I supposed to beat this? Overall, the Snow Kingdom is okay, I guess. but it's definitely one of the weaker kingdoms in the game. Remember what I said about the dark side being completely useless and serving no actual purpose? That's not only because of the content it holds, but also because there is a darker side of the moon that more or less should have just taken its original place to begin with. So most of you are probably familiar with the trend of the last level in a Mario game being the ultimate challenge since Mario Galaxy 2, and Darker Side is this game's version of that. If ridiculously easy though. Now compared to the other missions in this game, it's obviously more challenging, but that's not saying much with how Odyssey's near perfect controls make 99% of all moons a breeze to get. Darker Side has really fun platforming, is very long and ends on an absolutely chilling note as you climb up the spire of Colmina Crater's tower and Cappy narrating down your adventures. But difficult? I think not! What makes this level difficult is the length and the fact that you'll respawn back at the start if you lose. The platforming is, for the most part, really generous, and what's even more generous is how the game rewards you with life up hearts at every corner. The only really difficult part is the foggy room with the lasers and fuzzballs and the absolutely mind-boggling 2D sections where your controls turn against you. But otherwise, it's just gliding through a void, or slowly flinging yourself to forks, or a Bowser platformer where you can demolish whatever obstacle there is. It's not hard. Also, fun fact, I didn't even mention the glide on glitch that allows you to skip half of the level when I criticized the difficulty of this level. You know you gotta spice it up when I have more trouble with missions in the first world of Super Mario Sunshine. Actually wait, shouldn't it be the other way around? I mean, actually those missions are even harder than 3D World's Champions Road, so you've been spared this time, Darker Side, even if you're still too easy. It's still a fun mission though, and ends on a perfect note, but I refuse to believe it is difficult unless you're relatively inexperienced with the game. The Metro Kingdom is honestly just so freaking overrated. Hey, calm down everyone, I said it was overrated, not bad. The Metro Kingdom is by far the fan favorite kingdom for most people, and it's understandable why. It's a kingdom based on New York City, and the canon location of the very first Mario game of all time, Donkey Kong. Now yes, this is such an odd idea for a kingdom, but it works so well. What comes to mind when you think of New York? I'd say it has roadways, traffic signs, yellow taxis, buildings, skyscrapers. Well, all of it is perfectly utilized to its full potential in the Metro Kingdom. They got so creative with all the assets and it all flows so organically. There's so many things you can do, and just like with the Sand Kingdom, you can't get bored. Out of all the kingdoms, this one probably took the most advantage of its theme. Actually wait, it's called the Metro Kingdom. A metro is another word for subway, but there's not a single metro train in sight, not even in the underground section. Alright, worst kingdom in the game, absolute clickbait. Jokes aside, there are problems beyond the name that brings this kingdom outside of the top 3, most specifically the first impression. When you first land in this kingdom, it's all rainy and gloomy and infested with insects, which isn't the most pleasant way to introduce me to a level. And then we also fight the worst boss of the entire game with awkward motion controls and overlong intermission sequences. But after that, it's amazing. Even if I don't particularly care for the festival as much as everyone else seems to do. Anyways, Metro Kingdom is amazing, like near perfect then. This should tell you something about the next 3 kingdoms on this list. I would be lying if I didn't say that it was the Cascade Kingdom that would define my opinion on Super Mario Odyssey forever after. It's not the biggest kingdom, but it's by far the most epic one, despite just being the first real kingdom you visit. It gets you so pumped up from the moment you step foot on it. The epic music tells you to go have the time of your life, swimming through springs, scaling the cliffs, dominate your enemies, explore, and so on. It's by far one of the most beautiful kingdoms in the game, both visually and atmospherically. I mean, just look at the detailing. If that wasn't enough, you can even capture a T-Rex, a freaking T-Rex, and destroy everything in your path. Sure, it doesn't control the best, but the fact that it's there is more than enough for me. Cascade Kingdom may overall not be as big as some of the other levels or as important story-wise, but it's by far one of the most beautifully crafted levels in the entire game. But wait, there's actually an even more beautiful level in this one. Let's find out. No matter how many times I play, no matter how much I love the other levels in the game, in my opinion, no kingdom will ever be more breathtaking or beautiful than the Last Kingdom. Holy hell did they go all out with the fields in this one. So, take everything I said about the Cascade Kingdom and amplify it. As soon as I stepped out of the broken Odyssey in this kingdom, it was like the nature spoke to me on every level. The atmosphere completely changed. This kingdom truly gave you the feel of being far away from civilization, on a forgotten isle in the middle of nowhere, with its own unique life and biome. It had one of the most unique settings for any Mario level at all, with the red jungle, poisonous sea, the tropical wigglers which not only let you traverse faraway areas, but also plays a lovely accordion tune whenever you stretch it out. This level is truly one of a kind, and it helps even more that the song that plays makes you feel both lonely and yet surrounded by life. I can't fathom why anyone would dislike this kingdom. Sure, it prevented you from going to the Metro Kingdom right away, but it's about the journey, not the destination. This is the best kingdom in the entire game, and no one can convince me otherwise.
Not even me?
No, Bertel Oris, definitely not you.